All right, we see the title. I'm doing some bait. It's been a while since I've done a full-on bait video. I've done a lot of LARP videos, but let's balance it out with a little bit of bait. Was Stalin a fascist? Because Vaush says so. It's gotta be true. Um, Jesus wept. I mean, this is the basic purpose of this. We all know is to basically say that wasn't real socialism, bro, because you know the Soviet Union was far right, you know, and all this thing, especially after Stalin took over. But it's like the fact is that what would they have done? You can't sell people on the idea of Mogomunism and the international and think that, oh my god, goodness, I mean, they're going to be no. I mean, people were still religious. They still had a belief of a larger identity of being Russian. And Stalin simply, took advantage of that. The thing is all great leaders, all truly great and inspiring leaders, is that Stalin. I mean, if you want to give the idea of Stalin being fascist, is that Stalin wasn't Russian; he was Georgian. Much the same way as Hitler wasn't German; he was Austrian. Napoleon was not officially French; he was Corsican. You know, so if you want to say that, I mean, I think Mussolini was actually Italian, so I can't really, or he could have been a black dude. Who knows? But um, the thing is, it's such a ridiculous notion to be like, oh well, Stalin was actually fascist. It's just like, bruh. It's like this is the level of deceit that we're on. I was gonna say retardation, but no, it's just outright deceit. People want to reinvent socialism and they want to leave out the naughty bits and say no, we don't identify with Stalin. He wasn't really a fascist. It's the same type of thing that Caleb Maupin did. Is if I mentioned, oh, what do you think about Felix Dzerzhinsky, Caleb? You think that he was good? And he's like, I don't know who Felix Dzerzhinsky is. Bruh, you know exactly who he is. But this is what folks do so that they can appeal to the normies and all that, at least in their mind. And Vaush does the same thing. He wants to appeal to the normies, so they'll say, well, Stalin was a bad guy, and he wants to reach more of that anti-communism stuff. Also, Stalin didn't like the homosexuals. I mean, that's been mentioned many, many a time where it's like, you know, this, what was it? The British guy who wrote, oh, well, it's, you should accept the homosexuals. You need to, and what did Stalin? He didn't even bother. He just said a degenerate. And he moved on like a degenerate. Who cares about that faggot? Shut him up. And the thing is, to a point, Stalin was correct because that same Communist Party member who said we need to accept homosexuals and all that, yes, we need to accept that. What did that guy do? He later became a lib. He went to other countries and became a journalist and basically supported the British Empire. So maybe Stalin was correct that he had that sense of just like, yeah, if we allow the homos in, yeah, fuck you. No, he's just a degenerate. You know what I mean? This is the same thing. What happens now is that gay dudes are not on your side. This whole thing of this is the whole idea of being so inclusive, and that I mean the reality is that most gomi parties today and most like left wing groups today, they'll just accept damn near anybody unless you're like a reactionary or like but if you give lip service to the ideas of like feminism and like accepting transgenderism and shit like that, you're pretty much in. Unless you become a full-on sex pest about it and you become like a creepy guy, and then of course only if it's really unless you're not that important to the movement. But to answer the basic question, no, Stalin was no fascist. I mean, he gave lip service to other cultures. Yeah, he imprisoned large groups of people, and yeah, he did all that. But it's like so did the United States. Do we call them fascist? Not outright, because of course, people like Vaush, of course, will say, "Oh, well, America's bad," but sort of, somewhat my belief as well. It's like, yeah, this is the only country we know. Basically, no, he wasn't. What I want to say is that it's a very contrarian point of view, and it's like, I'm a contrarian myself. Don't get me wrong, I'm a contrarian. I'm also very cynical. And when I first heard about Smedley Butler and even read his book, I got this feeling of just like, this guy's full of shit. And it turns out he wasn't. Sometimes, you can become so jaded that you don't really see the good in people. And I do want to end this short little video by saying, I apologize to the memory of Smedley Butler. It sounds like he was a pretty good guy. He dedicated, his life to trying to promote. It's like saying that, yeah, war was a racket. War is a racket. It's not was. It always has been. War is a racket. It's not there to help you. It's not there for freedom or liberation. It's there to make money. It's there for control. And while I feel like to a point, I'm sure that the business plot was real, this and that fascism could have taken over the United States. I just don't fully. It's one of those things where it's like, because like, vaguely progressive people like that right-wing media or whatever, that guy, I think it was right, whatever the fucking name of his channel is, that obviously Gen Xer guy. I mean, I've heard him talk. He's very monotone, but it's like, and Bernie Sanders could have saved the day, but anyway, very cringe guy in general. He's one of these guys who's like, well, we don't need to have a bloody revolution and stuff like that. Get the fuck out of here. But of course, he joined the whole, oh, I hate Jimmy Dore type of thing and all this bullshit. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's all I had to say. No, he was not. Stalin was somebody who fully believed in the ideas of Marxist-Leninism. He adopted them, and he adapted his attitudes towards Marxist-Leninism and his views on atheism, and he was able to create something that actually worked, that actually beat, the Nazis. Now, of course, you can go ahead and say, oh, but it was, his central planning and all that. He eventually let loose of some of that control, and he was able to let a lot of talented people design the IS-2. Of course, Joseph Stalin 2 tank, and design the Katyusha, and be able to put Pepeshahs in Soviet soldiers' hands, etc., etc. But anyway, that's all I have to say on that. I look forward to the comments on this one. See you later. A goodbye.